Father's Day is just around the corner, and you probably need a gift for your hairy dad. Make your dad proud this year and get him and yourself the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com.
Aaron Donald creates the fumble. Dog goes crashing into the end zone.
It is intercepted by Jalen Ramsey.
Robert Wood, touchdown. Picked off by John Johnson. Touchdown, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air. Henderson with a good run and a first down. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Van Jefferson. Everett in stride. Wow. To the end zone. Kick makers. LA will play for the Lombardi.
All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you today to talk about Rams free agency. I know that a lot of people aren't really thinking about free agency because it's after the draft, but there are still some free agents out there and some free agents out there that the Rams could potentially be interested in, as well as free agency news throughout the league. But for this episode, we're going to specifically talk about the Rams. We will be doing an episode where we talk about the NFL in general. But Jake, I'm going to let you start off here. If you were the Rams and, draft is over, we had our draft. Now we might be looking to add a few key pieces. Who's the first person that you look to potentially sign to our team?
Yeah, so, it's going to come as kind of a shock to people, but I would try and get Melvin Ingram for cheap. He's still a free agent, and there's a good chance, he's probably going to sign with Miami. But if he doesn't, I'd like to grab, a pass rusher opposite of Leonard Floyd. I think that the Rams do need that. And to be honest with you, I think that they wanted to target the edge defender position in the draft. I think they just missed out on the top guys that maybe they might have been interested in. And they didn't really feel the need until the fifth round when they addressed it by going out and grabbing Ernest Brown the fourth, who they actually, a source is telling me that they really, really, really like him. So they're way higher on him than I was, and they're higher on him than I imagined they would be. But that's definitely an interesting caveat there. And then the seventh round pick, Chris Garrett. But to me, Alexis, the reason I say Melvin Ingram is because I look at him as a veteran presence. This is the youngest football team in the league right now, according to average age. I think it would help being that he's 32. He can play the outside linebacker spot. He's out visiting teams right now. The Rams are looking, right now in camp, they're looking at what they have. And I could tell you, they don't like where Terrell Lewis is with his knee. And if they feel like Justin Hollins and Oba Okoronkwo and the guys that they have aren't enough, Melvin Ingram can give you top-notch quality if he stays healthy. He's a legitimate starter. He probably shouldn't be available. I think, to me, that's who I'm looking at. 6'2", 247 pounds. He actually went to South Carolina, which is kind of funny because, they added South Carolina linebacker Ernest Jones. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm leaning, a 3-time Pro Bowler in his own right. And he's already in LA. So I think if the Rams, kick the tires on him, I think he'd definitely want to go there, if anything.
Yeah, I like Melvin Ingram. I agree. I think it'd be a good fit for the Rams. I do know that he, according to, some NFL reporters and NFL sources, is pretty close to reaching a deal with Miami.
That's what I was figured as well.
So I don't think that he's going to be an option for the Rams or any other team. It sounds like that's where he's going to go, but you never know. You hear that all the time, and sometimes other teams come in with better offers and they change their mind at the last minute. But that is my assumption of where Melvin Ingram's going to go. But honestly, other than him, there's really no one else in that particular position that I am dying for the Rams to get if you look at available free agents. So I'm going to shift the focus a little bit to offensive line because anyone who watched our draft show knows that we were just flabbergasted that the Rams did not take an offensive lineman, because we are pretty thin at that position. And, honestly, with the little depth that we do have, it's not particularly great. I mean, I'd say we're okay. I wouldn't say that we're the worst in the league when it comes to talent, when it comes to offensive line depth, but we're not, near being the best by any means. And when you look at who's left, some of the top offensive line free agents left as of today, May 27th, when we record this. You got guys like offensive tackle Morgan Moses, offensive tackle Mitchell Schwartz, Russell. Actually, he might have signed with somebody. I don't remember. But you got a couple guys there, and I'm scrolling through this list. But before I really want to touch on Mitchell Schwartz and Morgan Moses and hear your thoughts on them, because these are guys, they're obviously veterans. They're not young by any means, but they have a lot of experience, and in their prime, they both were very good offensive tackles. And I think they still are. I think if anything, they've declined because of age. I don't think that they've had any, tremendous decline. Mitchell Schwartz got released by the Kansas City Chiefs, which was honestly surprising, but we know that they did that because they ended up trading for two other offensive tackles. So I would really like to see Mitchell Schwartz potentially become a Ram. So what are your thoughts on him, and what are your thoughts on Austin Reeder? Because I actually think that he is also a free agent. I was looking for his name here. I don't see it, but I don't believe that he's signed with anybody else. He also is a former Kansas City Chief. He's an interior offensive lineman, very good. And both of those guys I'd like to see become a Ram, if for no other reason than depth. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I look at, first off, you said Morgan Moses has familiarity with Sean McVay, being that, he has familiarity, I think, with Carberry as well, being that he was from Washington. Solid interior offensive lineman. The problem is with him, and he played, of course, tackle. The problem is with him is that, he is hampered by injuries. He's getting older. So there's that. Austin Reeder didn't allow a sack all of last year. So he's definitely an interesting, piece there. I think the Rams, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the Rams really do like where they're at offensive line wise. I know it's hard for some people to believe, but, they feel good about Andrew Whitworth, obviously, and Rob Havenstein. And the reason they feel good about their offensive line is even if Whitworth goes down, you look at the way Joseph Noteboom played without Whitworth, and I thought it was very, admirable. I mean, I thought he definitely had a good run there. And then they like Bobby Evans. They might have actually found his spot in the offensive line. It seems like they really do want to keep him on the right side, and they want him to play guard this year. They like David Edwards at left guard, and then they moved Austin Corbett, like we've been talking about, like we've speculated. They moved him to center. So that is their starting five right now. And then they have guys like Tremaine Ankrum, who they're really high on. They're also really high on Alaric Jackson, the UDFA out of Iowa. They really like him. I was surprised, when I talked to somebody about, who they were, looking at, who you would bump up, and talk, highly about. And, they mentioned a few names, Ben Skorenek, from your Notre Dame. And then, of course, I just mentioned Alaric Jackson and Ernest Brown. So, Jackson being a UDFA, they were higher on than most. And I think they might have actually drafted him if they didn't feel like, he was going to fall. He tested poorly, and I think that's why he fell, but he was definitely a draftable prospect, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree there. And, like you said, I do think the Rams are happy with who they have on the offensive line, even though I think most people aren't. But, obviously the Rams could be seeing something that we don't. And to close out the free agency portion of this episode, because after we do talk about free agency, I just want to talk briefly on what has been reported out of Rams camp and what the Rams feel so far. The last thing I think we should talk about in regards to free agency is Julio Jones, because a lot of Rams fans are very into the idea that the Rams are going to try and trade for Julio Jones. Now, you and I talked about this, but we haven't talked about this publicly. And I'll just share my thoughts on this. My thoughts on this is just it's totally unnecessary to me, and I don't understand why we would want to take on a huge contract for a 32-year-old wide receiver when we drafted like 60. So it just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't see how we could get Julio Jones without having to give up Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods unless we gave up Van Jefferson, which I don't think the Rams want to do. So I just don't think that it's a very realistic possibility. I don't think that, the Rams should do that. And sorry guys about my sound. We're having tech issues, so I'm having to speak into a different mic than normal. But yeah, I don't think that Julio Jones to the Rams is a good idea, and I don't think it's a realistic idea. I do like Julio Jones, though. That's not a knock on him, and it's not a knock on I think he would be good in the Rams system, but I don't think that we should take on that contract, and I don't think that we need to. But what are your thoughts on Julio Jones to the Rams?
So I will answer that question once we come back from our break. But for now, a word from our sponsor, Manscaped, and we'll be right back. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and just launched their Lawnmower 4.0. Imagine surprising your dad with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized body hair trimmer that says your balls will thank you on the box. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. You might ask, how is this Lawnmower 4.0 different than other trimmers? Well, this upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. This is a great feature if your father or yourself do a lot of traveling. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000 LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. You can now shave your balls in the dark. The Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. The new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. Yeah, you heard that right. Wireless charging ball trimmers are a real thing now. Have you ever seen a nose bush sticking out of your dad's nose? Well, the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer is the best nose hair trimmer on the market and the perfect gift for your pops. They also have other amazing products like cologne, crop mop, ball wipes, which are pretty awesome, crop reviver, which is a ball toner, crop preserver, which is ball deodorant. Literally just found out that was a thing. For all the females listening, you'll appreciate this part. Manscaped products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, dye-free, and vegan. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code DTR at manscaped.com and get your dad a gift you know they will use. That's 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com, and use promo code DTR. Don't forget, you came from your dad's balls this year. Show your original home some love with Manscaped. The same. I think you're looking at somebody who is one of the best at his position. Obviously you have 3 years of control if you go out and trade for him, and you have a potential out at $7 million cap hit in 2023 if you trade him. So here's how I look at Julio Jones. Okay. There's no doubt he is a great football player. That is not what I'm against. I did a video of this on my channel on YouTube, and what I basically said is, look, Julio Jones is great. And, obviously if the Rams could get him for free, they would take him. But the fact of the matter is this: they have the best receiving room in the league. They have Robert Woods. They have Cooper Kupp. They have Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell. If you want to combine Skorenek, who the Rams really like, by the way, and Jacob Harris, who's going to be a wide receiver, tight end hybrid, then, find me a better receiver core. And then you have the tight ends, you have the running backs that can also make plays out of the backfield, with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. They don't have a need for Julio Jones. Matthew Stafford was their big splash this offseason. They're not going out and getting anybody. And if they do, here's what I was saying on my stream the other day. Straight up, I wouldn't do a Julio Jones trade because to me, it's just greediness. You don't need that. But what would make the Rams better? What did we just talk about, Alexis? We talked about Melvin Ingram. We talked about the edge position. Okay, we've been talking about the edge position. Jordan Smith, we've been talking about it. So if Khalil Mack all of a sudden said, I don't want to be a Bear anymore, the Rams almost traded for him when he was with the Raiders. People forget about that. If he decided he didn't want to be with the Bears anymore and decided to just pull a Deshaun Watson and just say, you know what, I'm done, I think the Rams would be at the forefront of that. I think that's something that they would do. And here's why. Because with Aaron Donald isn't getting maximized by having Leonard Floyd. He would get maximized by having a guy like Khalil Mack. Leonard Floyd helps, but when you don't have another guy on the other side that's as good, then you're not fully maximizing what Aaron Donald can do. And so, in my opinion, if you're going to make a splash move, don't just make it to have another star in the building. Make it make sense. Khalil Mack, if he became available, would make sense. Myles Garrett, if he became available, would make sense. A star pass rusher would make sense. But there's no logical explanation to, pay Julio Jones, who, by the way, is the richest contract in the NFL according to all wide receivers. It would make no sense to pay him all that money and, give up assets to do it when you already have all those expensive contracts on the books with, Woods and Kupp, and you're paying Higbee nearly $10 million a year. It just doesn't make any sense. So again, I know people like stars, LA. Please stop using the excuse of the fact that they play in LA as the reason they're going to go out and make a totally pointless trade that will barely improve their offense. I mean, don't get me wrong, Julio Jones would improve their offense, but I think people are really sleeping on the ability of Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and all those guys. They really do. And I think people are also sleeping on the fact that, again, Matthew Stafford was the Julio Jones pickup. He's the guy that changes everything. Julio Jones wouldn't change a thing because Matthew Stafford is what's changing everything. He's the thing. He's the reason you're going out and getting all these receivers, in the draft. You're drafting 3 guys and feeling good about it. He's the reason that you're even, considering going out and getting Deshaun Jackson. I mean, that's the thing. It's all overkill. And they're doing it because they have Matthew Stafford. And with that defense, you want to get back to number 1 in the league? This is how. If you were to go out and get a Melvin Ingram, or if that was even possible, or, trade or something like that, then do it. But a wide receiver, when you're the deepest wide receiver room, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, and speaking of wide receivers, we're going to briefly touch on, word coming out of the Rams camp of who the Rams like so far, how things are looking. And I want to start with the wide receiver position because a lot of good things have come out of the Rams camp about Ben Skowronek, who, keep in mind, was a 7th-round pick, almost more than Tutu Atwell. And it could just be because it's more obvious to report on Tutu Atwell, or maybe I'm just not seeing it, which also could be the case. But it is quite noticeable to me that you're hearing a lot more about the other receivers. 7th-round pick Ben Skowronek, Jacob Harris, who is like, tight end, I guess, wide receiver, however they're going to use him, then Tutu Atwell. So maybe I'm wrong about that. But I do want to touch on Ben Skowronek. I mean, this is a guy, again, 7th-round pick out of Notre Dame. Again, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I'm not biased to this pick. If you watch the live stream when Jake and I did the live stream during the draft, I was actually not super thrilled with this pick, which was a bummer because, like I said, I'm a fan of Ben's. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Normally, I'd love for the Rams to take a guy out of Notre Dame. I didn't necessarily see this fit, and I didn't understand the point, and that so much wasn't a knock on Ben. It was just more a positional knock, and I didn't quite understand why we were drafting someone who, in my opinion, was going to be mostly special teams, which almost seems like it is still the case. But, Jake, do you think there's a chance, just based on what we're hearing about Ben Skowronek, that the Rams are considering maybe using him in situations that aren't special teams situations?
100%. I mean, I think when you look at, a 6'3", 211 body type, a guy that can go up and has vice grip hands, I think there's definitely going to be opportunities for Ben Sko in this offense. And to be honest with you, it's going to come in the red zone. So he's going to have an opportunity to score touchdowns. I mean, I heard, I think it was Emery Hunt, who's been on a show before. He said that he could be used as a flex tight end. And to me, that speaks volumes to how they view him. They view him as a guy that can help maybe day one in the red zone. And what have I always said? Sean McVay, regardless if it was with the Rams and Goff or with the Washington and Kirk Cousins, he has struggled mightily in the red zone. He just that's his weakness. That's his kryptonite. And
yeah,
I think you go out, you get a guy like Jacob Harris, you get a guy like Ben Sko, you get a guy like Higbee, Bryson Hopkins. Those guys can climb the ladder. And to me, I think Skoranek is definitely going to have an opportunity to play for this team. I know there's already people like, well, he's a 7th round pick. I'm not going to put stock into it. I mean, from what I'm hearing, buy your Ben Skoranek stock now, because there's a good chance that he could actually be a starting receiver someday for the Rams.
Yeah, and I want to draw again the Tutu Atwell comparison, because it's a little strange, because Tutu Atwell actually came out and said that the Rams are going to be using him for punt returns, or at least that's the plan as of right now. I mean, that could obviously change. They can mix some things up. But it looks like the Rams are looking to use Tutu Atwell as a punt returner. And in kind of a weird way, it's almost like the 2nd round pick guy, Tutu Atwell, is being looked at as the gadget special teams guy. And the 7th round pick in Ben Skoranek is being looked at as a potential starting receiver one day, getting a lot of reps, not on special teams. So that to me is a little interesting. And I don't know if that was the Rams' plan all along, or if it's just early in camp and they've just kind of found that fit for Tutu and they're kind of testing Ben to see what he can do, or if the Rams started camp and legitimately are like switching the 2nd round pick and the 7th round picks roles. I don't know. And again, they could also just be kind of holding off on Tutu Atwell, trying to figure out where to use him for now, because we know that Deshaun Jackson was brought in to be the deep threat guy. That's kind of what Tutu Atwell is as well. So maybe they just aren't giving him a lot of reps right away. I'm not sure. But other than that, the Ben and the Tutu news, is there anything else that you're hearing coming out of Rams training camp so far?
Pretty much, what I've heard. I mean, what we've been talking about, on air and off air. The Ernest Brown thing just really perked up my ears. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious Ernest Jones is going to start. We talked about that during the draft. So that wasn't a shock to me, but Ernest Brown, thinking that, he could be, maybe a Trey Flowers type of player, kind of reminds me of John Franklin Myers. We won't get into my thoughts on that, because you already know where my thoughts are on letting him go. But I do wonder if he's like their diamond in the rough that they, maybe drafted, that no one else saw coming.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him out of Northwestern. He wasn't someone that I necessarily saw getting drafted. And if he was not that high, as I mentioned when we did our draft stream, but, again, the Rams saw something in him, and they're continuing to see something in him that they really like. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's very early in training camp. So again, there's not a ton to report on now. And even if there was, a lot can change between now and the regular season, even preseason. But those are just kind of the quick thoughts so far. We are going to be coming out with another episode in a few days, just kind of giving a brief overview on just the NFL in general and free agency. But until then, guys, take care. And as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me at the Alexis Craft on Twitter. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan. And we'll be back in a couple days. Until then, guys, stay safe and go Rams. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and make sure to use code DTR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.